భగవత ప్రవాహలో మూడో భాగం స్కంద 2 అంటే చాప్టర్ 2 నుంచి ఈరోజు మొదలు పెడుతున్నాము. భాగవతం నుంచి ఫస్ట్ చాప్టర్లో గోకర్ణ గురించి, దేవి భక్తి గురించి, జ్ఞాన వైరాగ్య గురించి తెలుసుకున్నాము. ఇప్పుడు ఇంకొక స్కందలో భాగంలో ఏ విధంగా పరీక్షిత్ మహారాజ్కి ముక్తి దొరికిందో ఆ పాటలో మనం వెళ్తున్నాం. तो जय बोलो व्यास भगवान की, तो जय बोलो सुखा महर्षि की, तो जय बोलो परीक्षित भगवान की, तो जय बोलो भागवत पुराण की, तो जय बोलो सद्गुरुदेव की. We start this skanda part 2. Now before we start listening to this, I want you to clear your heads, make space in your hearts. It's very important. If it is already full, you'll not be able to feed in anymore. So just clear whatever is there here and make space here. It is so very easy to absorb the Purana into your heart. So the same scenario continues in Skanda 2, also in part 2. Saunaka Rishi, he continues asking Sutaroma Harchana about how the Bhagavad Gita came into being. And when was it composed? How was it composed? What is the benefit of it? All that we had already spoken a little bit over there. And now, when Saunaka continues this quest of learning more about the Bhagavatam, it is Suta's son, Ugrasravas, who continues from here on. So Ugrasrava says that, Saunaka, let me explain to you how the Bhagavatam came into being. He tells him that I learnt it when it was told by Sukha to Parikshit Mahamuni. So then Saunaka says, were you allowed to be there when this was told? So then Ugrasravas Rishi says that yes, I was there. And when it was recited, narrated by Sukha Maharishi, it is like every word has been etched or carved in my heart and in my mind, and I can recite it even today. It was so beautifully expounded by Vyasa son Sukha. So then Ugrasravas continues that there was a time long back, since Vyasa was born in Dwapara Yuga, after Krishna had left for the heavenly abode, there was a time when Vyasa was contemplating on whatever he had done for mankind. So at that particular time, Vyasa, who's born of the fisher girls Satyavati and Rishi Parashara, was sitting at a lonely place and sipping some water from the Saraswati river. Suddenly, as he was sipping that water, he went back in time. He went back in Kala. He started seeing the unseen that was going to happen in the future. He saw humans struggling to make their identity, to create their identity. He saw humans racing ahead in technology, in science. But then He saw a lot of people getting depressed, feeling alone, unwanted. And he found the humankind searching for ways and means to anchor themselves. So that arose the thought, or rather you can say compassion filled in his heart for the humankind, and he decided to split the Veda into 4 parts. That's when he split it up into 4 parts. He realized, like a common man, a man of a lower intellect or aptitude will not be able to decipher this. So he split it into 4. He gave it to Paila, to Jaimini, Vaisampayana, and to Sumantu. In turn, these rishis split it up again so that it can be much more accessible to everyone and everybody can understand. After this was done, he still was not satisfied. He was still not content. He just felt that something was missing. So he then started thinking, and then he peeped deep into his heart. And he said, let me compose the Mahabharata. He took the help of Lord Ganesha, who transcribed the Mahabharata using the broken tusk. Mahabharata has every lesson that you want to learn from in your life. You have jealousy, you have greed, you have anger, you have attachment, you have, instability of the mind, how it works, insecurities. Every aspect that a man encounters in his day-to-day life is reflected in the Mahabharata. There's so much you can learn from that. So Vyasa felt that if I put this down in simpler terms, people can learn from this and find solace. So after he did this, he was still not satisfied. He still felt something is missing, something is missing. I've written so much, but I still feel there is something terribly lacking in all that I have written. As he was sitting contemplating in the secluded ashrama, Samyaprasa, he hears the plucking of the veena, the enchanting plucking of the veena. And very soon he comes to know who is it when he hears the words Narayana, Narayana. So then he realizes that Narada has come to pay a visit. And we all know Narada never pays visits to anyone. Narada pays visits only he have to convey something or create something or do something there. So for the same reason, Narada was here too. So Narada asked the great Vedavyasa, why are you so desolate? What's bothering you? Why are you lost in thought? What is it that is not making you feel content and happy? You have done everything that you can do for mankind. So Vyasa says, even I am not able to understand why I feel this way. Why is my heart not so joyful? Why don't I feel full? Why am I not feeling that? So then Narada plucks his veena a little bit and strums a few notes, closes his eyes, and then he says, Great Rishi Vyasa, you have told man on how to live life, rituals, do's and don'ts, how to face problems, and so many other things which are more or less as tools or applications in life in your books. But nowhere in any book of yours have you sung about the blue god. You have never described him at all. So that's the reason you are not content. You are not feeling fulfilled. So then Narada says, Great Vyasa, compose the Leelas of Krishna, of Hari. Describe it to your heart's content. Let people also know what happened when the divine was walking on this earth. So that's when Vyasa realizes, yes, in all his compositions, description of the Lord was missing, of the blue god was missing. So then he sits on the bank of the river Saraswati. He sips a few sips of water, closes his eyes, and sits in deep meditation. In this meditative state, all that happened before, even Krishna's appearance, every single thing, he went back in time, absorbed all that happened, and he started writing it down. And that is how he composed the Bhagavata Purana. After he composed it, Ugrasrava says that the Purana was told to Sukha, that is Vyasa's son. He told the Purana to Sukha. So that's when Saunaka says, why did Vyasa have to tell it to Sukha? He's a thorough renouncer, he's renounced the world. And why to him? He's not the one who's going to spread it around. So that's when Ugrasrava says, but it was Sukha himself who told this or narrated this to Parikshit in his last moments. So Ugrasrava says, Saunaka, now listen to the story of Parikshit, Maharaj Parikshit, the last living person of the Pandavas dynasty. So he tells him that after the war, after the great Mahabharata war, when Duryodhana hits the mace into, Bhima hits the mace into Duryodhana's thigh and kills him. Post that, Ashwathama, who was already raging with revenge and anger, because even his father Dronacharya was beheaded. So keeping all this in his mind, he goes and he butchers all of the Pandava children when they are sleeping in their tents. He kills every single child of the Pandava clan in the darkness of night. But still, when he hears that even Duryodhana is dead, that disturbs him so much that in rage, in anger, he releases the Brahmastra, the most powerful weapon which annihilates to whomever it is directed to. So he releases it and he cries when he releases. He says like, go kill every Pandava on this face of this earth. There should be no Pandava left here. When he releases that, the Brahmastra starts, it's like a powerful energy, a malefic energy, which starts scanning the whole earth, searching for Pandava's children. And then it races towards the dead Abhimanyu's wife, Uttara. Abhimanyu is Arjuna's son who died in the war. His wife Uttara was then pregnant, carrying a child. So that was the last Pandava left on the face of the earth. So this Brahmastra searches for that and goes very close to Uttara and is just ready to enter into a womb. That's when the small unborn child who's inside Uttara's womb, the small unborn child just opens his eyes. He sees this brilliant light coming towards him, and just before the light, he sees a small little blue god. He sees a small little entity the size of his thumb, just this much, inside the womb of Uttara. The child opens his eyes and looks at the blue god. He finds the god adorned with the crown, jewels, is having 4 arms, wearing the pitambru, and with real anger, he is moving his mace around, trying to extinguish the flames of the Brahmastra. For the child, it looked like this blue little person, this wonderful blue little person is dancing in the womb. He does not understand that he is protecting him from the Brahmastra, which is going to annihilate him in no time. This little unborn child watches this beautiful blue god, dancing around and trying to extinguish the flames of the Brahmastra. Within time, he extinguishes it and then he moves away from there. So after this child was born, and since he was tested in the womb for his survival, he was called as Parikshit. Parikshit Maharaj was a person of very, very noble attributes, a very sound, a stable person. It so happened that after 33 years of the Mahabharata war, when the Pandavas, when Krishna left, the Pandavas also left. And so after they left, they appointed Kripacharya. Kripacharya was the Acharya in the Kaurava clan, but they appointed him as the guru for Parikshit. And then they anointed him, the young king, they anointed him as the king, the emperor, and they left to heaven. So Pandavas also left. So after they left, the little boy Parikshit grew, he married Airavati, and then under the guidance of Kripacharya, he performed 3 Ashwamedha Yagnas. Generally, most of the kings perform 1, maximum maybe 2, but he performed 3 Ashwamedha Yagnas simultaneously, one after the other. And after that was done, it so happened that one fine day when he was back from Dwaraka, he saw a Shudra. A Shudra means a person who did menial jobs. So he saw a very fiendish looking, dark colored Shudra holding a cane in his hand, belaboring and kicking a bull. And just beside the bull, he saw a cow, a beautiful white cow, just shedding her milk onto the ground in fear. And then when he looked closely, he saw that the bull had only 1 leg and 3 of his other legs were cut. And the cow was just crying and crying, and it was just shedding her milk onto the ground. So that's when Parikshit races close to them. And he says, "Stop, what are you doing? This is Brahmavarta. This is not allowed in my kingdom." He's actually so shocked to see that, and then he starts deciphering the whole thing, and he understands this is dharma. Already since Kali Yuga has to move in, the seeds of pride, greed, and enmity has come in. So he realizes that dharma is now standing on 1 leg, that is honesty right now. And mother, who's in the form, Bhudevi, who's in the form of a cow, was crying away because Krishna had just left her, and now she knows her time is not going to be that good. There'll be a lot of suffering for her. So he understands the whole thing within a few moments, and then he rushes to both of them. He starts stroking them compassionately, and he tells them, "Don't worry, I am Parikshit and I am here. I am from the lineage of Krishna, and I am here to protect you. Nothing will happen to you." So he consoles them, and they are little consoled, and they stop shivering. And then he takes out his sword. He rushes to behead the Sudra. The Sudra, in the meantime, who was dressed in a robe and had a crown over his head, carrying the insignia of a king, throws everything down, and he falls on the feet of Parikshit. Because he was Kali. Kali is actually a very powerful energy. Just like how you have for Treta Yuga, there was an energy for Treta Yuga who maintained the equilibrium throughout the Yuga. For Dwapara, and the same way for Kali, he is given a lot of leeway. And for Parikshit to pin him down, you have to be someone very, very superior in all aspects. So he puts the sword on Kali's neck, and by then Kali falls on his feet and he says, "Mercy. Please don't kill me. I have taken birth for this yuga. This is my yuga. Because you are here, I'm not able to enter Bhumi. This is my job and you are coming in between. So that's when Parikshit says, as long as I am here, you have no place on my land. So Kali says, there has to be some place for me. I'm the prescribed one for this yuga. So then he says, since you've asked for mercy, in Brahmavarta, in my land, you will be granted that wish. So you can go and stay wherever people are gambling, who gamble their very lives, get into the habit, you can go stay there, he says. Next, you can go and stay where people drink, where wine flows like water, you can go and stay there. And then you can go and stay in warehouses where women are abused. And then you can go and stay where animals are slaughtered. These 4 places, Parikshit gives it to Kali and tells him, wherever this happens, you have every right to destroy or get them down to the lowest level. But these are only your places. Then Kali is still very disturbed and he says, no, it is not enough. It's not enough. You have to give me another place. And then Parikshit realizes, he says, okay, you can stay where there is gold. Wherever there's gold, there are invasions. Wherever there's gold, there are quarrels. So you can go and stay where there is gold. Kali is very satisfied and he goes away. And Parikshit Maharaj is very satisfied that he's done the right thing and he moves away. Now this is where the whole equation starts changing. This is where the drama unfolds now. After they all go their respective ways, the kingdom of Parikshit is prospering, everybody is living a content life, and everybody is joyful. So one day it so happens that Parikshit Maharaj wants to go out for hunting. So he goes down into the cellar of his palace. Now in the cellar of the palace, there were many spoils from conquest. Suppose you invade another country, you get something in return or you get something as gifts from there, or sometimes you get some things where you snatch and get away. So there are many things, many crowns there, many jewels there, lot of armory over there. So when he goes down into the cellar to pick up one crown for himself, he finds one shining, as if it was beckoning him. It was bejeweled with a lot of jewels and everything. So that looks very attractive for him. So he picks up that crown, puts it on his head, and he goes for hunting. When he goes for hunting, he actually starts chasing a stag deer. And when he starts chasing them, he gets cut off from the rest of his people. That is the rest of his ministers and his, soldiers. So that stag, it's like as if it was magical. It takes him to the ashrama of Shamika Maharishi. And by the time he comes to Shamika Maharishi's ashram, Parikshit is very tired, he's thirsty, and he's also very hungry. So when he enters the ashram, he looks at Shamika Maharishi. Shamika Maharishi was deeply absorbed in himself. He was in the 4th state, that is called as the Turiya, the state of no dreams, no waking. The state where you're absorbed with the Brahman within you. So when he's in that state, even when Parikshit Maharaj goes and offers his namaskaras and he tells Rishivar, Shamika, everything, he goes on talking, I'm thirsty and I'm hungry. And I would like you to extend some hospitality. He tells it twice and he tells it thrice. But Shamika Maharishi was so lost in his meditation that he does not hear what Parikshit Maharaj tells him. At that time, being so dejected, what he does is he finds a dead snake close by in the asrama. So he picks up the dead snake and puts the dead snake around Shamika's neck, and he leaves the ashrama in a huff. By the time he comes out, all his ministers and his soldiers also catch up with him, and so with them he goes off. In some time, Shamika Maharishi's son, called Shringi, he comes to the hermitage. And when he comes to the hermitage, he sees a dead snake around his father's neck. He's first shocked. And then he closes his eyes, goes back, and tries to see what exactly happened. How did the snake end up on my father's neck? And what he sees in the vision angers him so much, because he sees Parikshit Maharaj just putting the snake around his neck. He does not see that he's calling out to him. He does not see that part at all. In anger, he gets so angry, he feels so insulted that he takes the Achman Patra, takes water, and he curses King Parikshit. He curses him, saying that 7 days from now, you shall be bitten by Takshaka, the king of the serpents, and you shall die. After he says this, he starts feeling remorseful, and he goes and falls on his father's feet. He starts crying. And that's when Shamika awakens himself from the deepest state of meditation that he was in. And he asks him, "Son, why are you crying? What happened?" And then he tells him, "King Parikshit came here and he put a dead snake around your neck, and I have cursed him to die in 7 days from now." That's when Shamika bursts out from his heart. He says, "Son, what have you done? It is only because of Parikshit we are safe from Kali. Now Kali will intrude 7 days from now. Kali will intrude on this earth, will make its place in every household. Adharma will take its place. Dharma will have no space anymore here. There will be no justice, there will be no love, there will be no companionship, there will be no honesty. There will be only crime and crime. What have you done?" He literally cries. Why did his son do that? And his son had to be the one to get Kali into the picture. And then he sends word to the king immediately. He tells King Parikshit that he's got 7 days to live. And before he sends word to Parikshit, what happens is, Parikshit Maharaj goes back to his palace, and when he sits down, he picks up his crown. The minute he picks up his crown, he feels like a heavy burden is lifted off from him. And then he thinks, what did I do? Why did I not understand that Shamika Maharishi was deep in meditation? Why did I have to put the snake around his neck? And then he looks at the crown. And when he turns the crown, he sees an insignia there. It was Jarasandha's crown, the most evil one, who Krishna had killed. And he says, no wonder when Kali asks, where else should I stay? Parikshit Maharaj is not going to go to any of these 4 places. He will always have access to gold because he is the king. So he entered Jarasandha's crown, glittered beautifully on that day, sat on his head, and enacted the whole thing so that he can have entry into Kali Yuga. So that's when, in a fraction of a second, the great Parikshit understands the whole thing. It's he who's stopping Kali take its rightful place. So he has to exit. And then at that time, the message comes from Shamika Maharishi's ashram that he's going to die in 7 days and Takshaka is going to bite him. He very joyfully accepts it. He says, just 7 days? So let me speed up my process. So how does he do? He hands over his kingdom. His son is still very small. He hands over everything to Kripacharya. He divides all the rules. He gives out all the guidelines, everything. And within no time, he moves away from the palace. He moves to the banks of river Ganga and decides to fast unto death. He says, for the next 7 days, I will not be eating and I will fast unto death. So he reaches the Ganges and settles himself comfortably there, waiting for his time. Within no time, many rishis, the Sapta rishis, everyone start walking towards the Ganges. He says, I am so blessed that you all are here today. This is my punya that I am having your vision before I pass away in the 7 days. He offers his namaskaras to all of them. And then they tell him, Parikshit, you are the last remaining connection of Krishna on this earth. We all would like to be with you for the next 7 days till you pass your mortal call. So these were not any ordinary rishis. For them, it was sitting closer to Krishna because that was the last connection. That human body had the last connection of Krishna. So all of them are sitting with him. And then he tells, how do I absolve myself of the sins that I have committed? What is the way? What is the marga? So at that particular time when he's talking to all these rishis, they get disturbed by a group of young women and children with just one male person between them, giggling and talking and laughing around loudly. They keep moving around the Ganges there. So the minute all of them turn and they see who is this, they see this beautiful young boy with curls up to his shoulders, dark as Krishna himself, with beautiful eyes. He looks like a boy of 16 summers. His clothing is only the wind around him. And all the rishis get up when they watch this boy coming towards them. They all get up and they say, this is Vyasa's son, the great Sukha Maharishi. So when Sukha sees Parikshit Maharaj and all the sages there, he asks all of them to go away. And then he walks very close to them. And that's when Parikshit Maharaj says, I'm thrice blessed today. Not only them, I had the opportunity to even meet you. So he falls on his feet and tells, Sukha Rishi, enlighten me. I have only 7 days. How I can be relieved from this mortal coil? What's the way to moksha? That's when Sukha says, you have to adopt dharana. You have to first renounce everything. So he says, I've renounced everything. You have to cut away all ties with your people whom you love right from within your heart. He said, I've done that already. And then he says, a person who wants moksha, who wants to reunite, will have to bathe and then sit in a secluded space and slowly raise his Kundalini Shakti from Mooladhara to Manipura, and from Manipura to Anahata. From Anahata, get purified once more in Vishuddha and shoot through right from the Agna, from your Brahmaranda into the Brahman. So this is the method of releasing oneself. So then he says, can you tell me a little more about him? Where did he originate from? This Brahman that you talk about. How did he create all this? What is this strange world that we don't have access to? So that's when Sukha says, this is the same question Narada asked Lord Brahma too. And then Lord Brahma had told him, or rather expounded, how the whole creation starts, how it dissolutes, and then how again it restarts. So then he tells him that if you look at the cosmos around you, it's in the shape of a cosmic man. And the shape of a cosmic man, you will find the galaxies, the universes. You will find different planets. There's a complete space by itself in the macrocosm level, and in the microcosm, you can see every living entity on this earth here. So Parikshit Maharaj asks, when you ask me to meditate, after I get my Kundalini app and I start meditating, on which form do I meditate? And which mantra do I chant? So that's when Sukha Maharishi says, you have to meditate on the Virata Swarupa, which Baba keeps all the time propagating. He says you have to meditate on the Virata Swarupa because he is the cosmic man and the whole cosmic universe is embedded in that persona. And then by chanting the first word, Om, you have to start the whole process. So he explains this in complete detail to Parikshit Maharaj. And then after this, he asks him about how the cosmic man has certain elements situated. So that's when Sukha Maharishi talks about how the right eye of the cosmic person is the sun and the left is the moon, and how the mountains, the rivers, the devas, everything, how it is located in each part of his body. So in detail he talks about the creation, and this is a part of the skanda too. So with this, I would like to end my discourse. We will continue from here in the next Bhagavata Pravaha. In the meantime, all of you, since you have opened your hearts, created some space, think about what I have told you now. Spend some time reliving the experience that you had experienced right now, and then try to think of Kali, where he stays. So that should be something that you should ponder upon today. Hari Om.